Hi there, my name is Michelle, and in this short video we're going to be looking at how to create the trial balance. Okay, before we can look at how to complete it, we need to understand why we're doing it. So what is the purpose of the trial balance? Next, we'll be looking at how to complete the trial balance from a list of balances. How do we determine which balance is a debit and which is a credit? And then finally, we'll look at completing a trial balance from a set of accounts. Why do we create the trial balance? We create the trial balance to test the accuracy of our entries. We list the balances from all of our accounts, and if the debit total and the credit total don't match, then we have identified that there is an error within the accounts, and we'll need to go back and find that error. Something we need to remember though is that the trial balance is not part of the double entry. And then finally, we need to also remember that when we're transferring the entries from the accounts to the trial balance, that because it's not part of the double entry, we are taking the entry straight from the account and putting it in the trial balance. So if we have a credit balance in the sales account, we would enter it as a credit balance in the trial balance as well. So the first thing we're going to look at is creating a trial balance from a list of balances. So you may be given in an exam question or an assessment question a list of balances, and you will need to determine whether the balance is a debit or a credit. Now you can use the acronym DEDCLIC to help with this. You may have come across this before. So DED stands for debit, expenses, assets and drawings, and then CLIC stands for credit, liabilities, income and capital. So we can use this to help us determine whether a balance is a debit or a credit. Now in an assessment situation, we have to be aware that the bank and the VAT account could be either. So you will be told whether these have a debit or a credit balance. So I've got a list of balances here on my screen. What I'd like you to do is just press pause now. Jot down those balances using DEDCLIC to help to determine whether it's a debit or a credit balance, and draw yourself up a trial balance. Once you've finished, press play again and we'll go through them. Okay, so now you've had some time just to run through those balances. We'll go through them together, see how you got on. So we are told that the bank account is overdrawn. So this means we technically owe the bank the money, which makes it a liability, and a liability account has a credit balance. The cash account is an asset. We can't have an overdrawn cash account, so it's going to be a debit balance. The capital account is money that the business owes to its owners. That's going to have a credit balance as it's money owed. The sales account is an income account, and an income account will have a credit balance. The VAT account shows that we are owed a refund. This means that HMRC owes us money. And when we're owed money, this makes it an asset account, and as an asset, it's going to have a debit balance. The purchases account is an expense to the business. That's going to have a debit balance as well. The motor vehicle and equipment accounts are both assets accounts, and both will have debit balances. Now we come to the purchase returns. Purchase returns is a little bit different, doesn't quite fit in with DEDCLIC, but based on what we know already, we can use the information that we have to determine whether the entry is going to be a debit or a credit. So a purchase returns is goods that we are sending back to the supplier, goods that are leaving the business. So if a purchases account has a debit balance, when we return goods, it's going to reduce the cost of those purchases. So we're going to have a credit balance in that account. The loan account is a liability. This is money we owe. So that's going to have a credit balance. The stationery account, that's going to be an expense to the business and will have a debit balance. And then we have debtors. Now the debtors is an asset. It's going to have a debit balance. And lastly, the creditors are liability accounts because we owe the money, and that's going to have a credit balance. So we are going to look at the trial balance next on the next screen, and we'll see how you did. Once we've entered all of our balances into the trial balance, hopefully the balances at the bottom should match. So we total up all of our debits and total up all of our credits and put the totals at the bottom. And if they're the same, we know that everything's fine. If they were different, we would need to investigate the reason for that. So the last thing we're going to look at is creating the trial balance from your accounts. So if we go back to what we talked about earlier, we know that the trial balance is not part of the double entry and that we would transfer the balances as they appear in the account. So we have here, we've got a bank account that has a debit balance. So when we're drawing up the trial balance, we would write it exactly like that. The bank would have a debit balance. So if you want to pause the video again, what you can do is use those accounts on the screen, draw up your trial balance, and then in a second we can check that. On this final screen, we can see the completed trial balance. Everything balances, which is fantastic, and I hope yours did too. I'd just like to say thank you for watching this video, and I hope you found it useful.